Pete was when I was a true freshman there. Pete was probably about 26, 27,
Okay.
and we used to call him the Surfer Boy.
Whoa.
And
Okay.
then our defensive coordinator was Monty Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Monty Kiffin was our defensive coordinator, and Lane Kiffin was very young. He was probably in his probably 10, 11 at the time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's bring in our next guest with you. This is Scott Wykoff. You probably know Scott Wykoff. He was working at WBAL and he does all the stuff with Navy. So he's actually down there right now. Hi, Scott.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys.
Here he used to be one of the coaches for Army back in the day. So we're getting ready for Army Navy. So where are you right now?
Well, I'm in the right outside the Army Hotel.
Are you really?
Army.
Tell Coach Munkin, Coach O said hello.
I will. Coach Munkin, amazingly enough, I think I did the only interview this week with Coach Munkin where he didn't at the end say beat Navy. Because the thing was, they have a big press conference every year in the host city, and they had it here in D.C. this week. But there was that huge fog we had early in the week, and Coach Munkin and his all-star quarterback, Captain America, Bryson Daly, they couldn't get there because of the fog.
Oh, wow.
You know, the same thing. We're on the computer talking to him and interviewing him. But, man, I tell you, there is more buzz, Coach. You probably get the sense of this. For these two teams, 19 wins between these two teams, the most ever.
Wow. Both programs have had a great year. They've done some really great things. I know Navy went through a little transition, but they were able to rebound and get it started up again. They made some adjustments on their staff, and sometimes that's all it takes. A couple adjustments, do some different things. They are doing some different things on offense, very similar but a little different. They're throwing the ball just like Army is too. Army is doing some different things, and that quarterback, he's special. And I've always said, and even when Coach Munkin and I worked together at Georgia Southern, I've always said that everything starts with a quarterback, and that's at every level. At high school, college, and NFL. If you don't have that, that trigger man, it's hard to win if you don't have that trigger person.
Well, and you're right, Coach, because Blake Horvath was putting up numbers just like Bryson Daly with the 6-game winning streak. And then, he went into that Notre Dame game a little nicked. And then when he got injured those two games, that's like you say, that's when Navy stumbled. But in the last 2 weeks, he is healthy. I've been watching him practice. He's dipping the football. And really interesting, Coach, that the head coach of Mercer, Drew Cronin, an FCS power, I believe, to come to be a coordinator at the Naval Academy. And I'm telling you, if Blake Horvath hadn't gotten injured, he might be getting some of the offers for these head coaching jobs now, because they call it the millennial wing T. And you're
I'm very familiar with that offense because we played against him.
He's put together the wing T with the triple option.
Correct. It's a little twist, just a little tad twist that really, creates problems for the defense.
Yeah, that's true.
And Navy's defense hasn't been a problem in the last few years. It's been the offense. They've really struggled. And like you said, it's so important in these games to have a quarterback you can rely on.
Yes. And then and also what's going to come down to these games here and when you're playing against each other, because they're very similar offensively. So it really comes down to who's going to be the most physical team on the field. And usually the most physical team on the field that makes the least mistakes will win the game.
And how about that Army offensive line? They're 300 pounds.
Hey, they can play anywhere in the country. They can play anywhere in the country. That's how good they are.
300-pound linemen when you were in Army?
Well, that's something. It was starting. We were starting to get to that down that street because he was working on getting these young men to be bigger and hopefully not having to lose that weight until after they finish their eligibility, and now they get before they get commissioned.
You don't even recognize those guys at the banquet in the spring because they've lost.
You're exactly right. Now, and is Navy offensive line that big also?
They're not that big. They're in the 280, 275 range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The big difference with this Navy offense is this line, and they're coached by a young guy who played championship game teams at Clemson with Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
And he says Blake Horvath has as much talent as a college quarterback as Deshaun Watson had. He said,
wow.
Big offensive lineman and was on a bigger stage. But yeah, the Navy offensive line is really taking a step up this year. But I'm telling you, that Army defense, they are relentless the way they run to the football.
They do. They do a good job. That's something, you got to credit, Coach Monken with that. That's something, ever since I've been with him at Georgia Southern, he made a big deal about us running to the football on defense. And he felt as long as you run to the football, even when you make mistakes and you're running to the football, you can make up for those mistakes when you run into the ball.
Yeah, and they really and offensively, one thing we've talked about is the fact how Army falls forward. They always seem to fall forward. And I talked to Colin Ramos, the All-American Athletic Conference captain and linebacker for Navy. He says the key is getting on top of them. Get on top, not falling forward.
Yep, you're exactly right. That's Coach Monken's trait. You want to fall forward and you don't run out of bounds. No. He was always getting on the backs and the quarterbacks about running out of bounds. Don't run out of bounds. You keep fighting for that extra yard.
But how about Brian Newberry from Kennesaw State and
I know
South and what he's done defensively and now the Baylor grad putting his name and his mark on this Navy team.
Yes, he's done a nice job. He's done a really nice job. I think Navy's done a great job all year long. It's going to be an amazing game to see two good teams, and right now they're all firing in all cylinders. So it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to sit home, relax, and be warm, and not have to worry about how cold is it down there.
It's cold. It's
okay. So I'm down here in South Georgia, so I'm going to just sit back and enjoy it, and enjoy the game, and like I always tell everybody, go Army, beat Navy.
Well,
Hey Scott, I'm going to ask you a question. With these Army Navy games, should be a high scoring game this year because both offenses clicking?
They say that. I'm still going to say it's going to be a low scoring game because of the defense, and it's going to be a physical game.
Okay.
And because both teams knows what each other is doing. So sometimes when you know what each side of the ball is doing, it's hard to score a lot of points. So I think it'll be a low scoring game, a real physical game, just like a typical Army Navy game, down to the wire.
First to 21. There you go.
Time of possession is going to be a key. I mean, if you can drive that ball and take 8 minutes off the clock and punch it in the end zone, and that's what both Army and Navy did when they on their winning streaks.
Yeah.
They dominated time of possession, and what is different with Navy this year is, though they can dominate in time of possession, they've got playmakers who can hit the big play. They've had 9-yard touchdowns. They've had 5-yard touchdowns. So that's kind of the new look that they're trying to bring into it, trying to be a little bit more explosive, work more from the gun, because it's hard recruiting kids to be athletes if you're not in the gun.
That is true. That is so true, because it's hard to find quarterbacks these days that are under center. So most high schools around the country, everything's out of the gun. So it's easy to find quarterbacks that can run this offense in the gun.
Yeah. We should do this every year. We should have like the Navy Army pregame show, unofficial pregame show. We should review Coach Cohen.
This is fun.
This is so good. I'm just sitting back here. I'm thinking,
no problem. Just
pencil me in.
Pencil me in.
Wonderful. And I appreciate that. This is great.
This is fun.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing we do the Florida State stuff during the off season, during the regular season, and I feel like we should continue doing this with Army Navy next year.
Now, are they pretty healthy? Is Navy pretty healthy right now?
Navy has, and they have the advantage, Coach, of having those 2 weeks because they didn't play in the conference.
Right. That's right, because they finished 2 weeks ago. They finished their conference play 2 weeks ago, and then Army had to play last Friday in the championship game.
That's right. And I remember back in 2016, Navy played in the championship game, and they had a quarterback named Worth who had a fantastic season, but he got hurt in the championship game, and they had to start a plebe in the Army-Navy game, and that's when the streak ended. And that's when the Army ended the streak with a plebe quarterback. So
I don't think that Monken's going to have a letdown. I'm sure they practiced well this week, and he probably didn't beat them up too much. And I think they'll be fresh and be ready to play. The key thing that I think he'll talk to them about is the things that they have to look forward to down the road. They still got a